for today's cup of coffee, we had alluded to this cup or two ago, and so we said we were going to make a full video on it. And so we are. And these are weird cartoons that we love.
Yeah.
And the cartoons today are weird, but not in a happy way. There's a lot of shit out there. We're talking cartoons that were supposedly designed for kids. Stuff out of the 90s and early 2000s.
Well,
Were they mid-2000s on some of them?
Yeah, mid to late 2000s, I would say. But just because it's on a kid's network does not necessarily mean it's for kids.
No, there were a lot of things that slid under the radar during that period of time. We'll talk to those. Those were sort of honorable mention ones. Number one on the list, Invader Zim.
Yes.
Oh God, that was just one of the most perfect cartoons.
At least for us weirdos.
For us, yeah. It was really not for kids because they had some, especially when he was doing the organ harvesting.
No,
that one was disturbing as hell.
That's my God. Now that one,
it was disturbing.
Now that was an episode that did freak me out. I hated watching.
And
that
their
episode.
Christmas one was disturbing.
I never got to see that one until like very later. Now, that's weird. I got to see the organ one, but not the Santa one.
Well, that was just because as far as the programming, and I think that some of whichever channel, it was Nickelodeon, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. That they were like, oh God, what have we done? And it was too late. But
scary Santa.
It was on the weekends, anyhow, so I think that maybe they had tried to put it at a time slot that was not as, prone to having smaller kids. Of course, they had Nick Jr.
Yeah.
So that was for the little kids.
Yeah, pretty much.
Any parent that just sits there and puts the kid in front of a box or anything and expects it to be the responsibility of the, TV company people, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Is your kid. Take responsibility for your kid.
Yeah.
I encouraged my kids to watch this. Of course, you were older at that point. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we quote Zim quite frequently.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, you can find some of the episodes on YouTube. The artwork was amazing. Vasquez, what is it? Yonan Vasquez or something like that is his name.
I think so. I don't know.
And just wonderful. The characters in those
his
things
art
were
style
great.
back then was like incredible. I mean, his art style is still good, but it's just different than what it was.
Yeah. But you had Zim, who was an alien, and he was bad at his job.
Very bad.
That had been sent to Earth.
That he was a genius. He was stupid.
And that he decided that he was going to conquer the planet. And then you had Dib, that he was the paranormal investigator.
Yeah.
And he was this interesting dynamic between he and Zim. And you had Dib's sister, Gaz. The little goth.
Loved Gaz.
Yes, Gaz was the goth chick, and she was amazing.
She got like a bigger role in the movie.
We'll not even talk about the movie. And of course, you had Gurr, which he was the defective robot that they had given Zim.
Me.
And that he had this to disguise himself amongst the humans, this green dog costume.
They were not smart. No. As far as their disguises. But nobody cared.
No.
The thing is, that's pretty accurate.
There are a hell of a lot of societal observations in that.
That's just a whole ass commentary on society.
And it's just like Miss Bitters was the teacher.
Yes.
It was just
teaching doom to the children.
It's like, we're doomed,
Yes.
doomed. It was just great. Lots of tongue-in-cheek. It was not for kids. I think the reason he got by with a lot of that stuff is because a lot of the references would go over the kids' heads.
They had to take so much out.
Well,
out.
But now, a couple of years ago...
Seriously, there's so much like shit that they would not allow him
Right.
to put, that he wanted to put in there. He wanted blood
Right.
in there, but
And
they would
wouldn't.
not allow it.
Didn't he? Was he the one that had the comic? It was Johnny the Homicidal Maniac or
Yes.
whatever it was.
And the spinoff Squee.
Right. He's a very, very dark sense of humor.
Yes, but it's funny.
It is funny. It is. You have to
He's a
have
very
a warped sense
dark,
of humor.
Twisted, weird sense of humor.
But it is hilarious. So check that out. And we have quoted Zim for many years.
Yeah.
Another one that was very, very bizarre. The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack.
Oh my god, now that one was Nightmare Fuel.
It was.
But I love that show. It was Nightmare Fuel.
It was. And the cartoon style, I mean, it's well done. The characters are just kind of horrific. It's this weird mix of horror and comedy and what the fuck.
Yes.
The storylines are interesting.
It's disturbed. I like Bubby.
Bubby was the whale.
Yes.
And Flapjack, he's this little golden child. I mean, he really is. He's very innocent. He's very forgiving. He is just, And then you had Captain Knuckles. And
Captain Knuckles.
he had wooden legs.
Yes,
he had a wooden ass, for real.
He had no legs in general. He had no bottom.
I know, but do you remember when they had to rebuild him an ass or something?
Yes.
Yes, and so they lived in Bubby's mouth.
Yeah. The whale's mouth.
And then you had...
But she took care of them both.
She did. And then you had, what was the guy's name that had the candy wife? I can't think of his name. He had a candy shop, but his wife was...
Peppermint Larry?
Yes. His wife was made out of candy.
Candy
and
wife.
It's just highly disturbing. One of the most...
She looked like something straight out of Coraline. She really did.
It was, yeah. And then you had the one dude that was the dentist and or surgeon, and he was just kind of horrifying.
He was
scary.
He was the
barber and the dentist, wasn't he? And the surgeon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Dr. Barber.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, you can find some of these.
And the cat. That fucking cat scene. Do you not remember the cat scene?
No, I don't remember the cat
scene. It was the
scene.
fucking scary ass cat that would just show up.
A lot of their stuff was scary. Again, it was not necessarily made for kids. Unless you have weird kids.
I'm pretty sure it was made by the same people who made Chowder. But
I'll have to look and see whether it was.
if it wasn't, it missed a damn good chance.
The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Loved it.
Who didn't love
And
that show though?
Grim was the Grim Reaper.
Yep.
And somehow...
He had some Jamaican accent.
He does.
That we
He has
loved
this
it.
wonderful Jamaican accent. And Billy and Mandy had somehow tricked him. I can't remember what he did, but he ended up being sort of indebted to them. They had control over him.
I think the voice of Zen plays Billy.
It may be. It probably is. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And so lots of interesting characters in that. Billy's character, he has this ginormous nose.
Yes. Mandy was always my favorite, though.
Of course. She's very emotionally flat.
Yeah.
But it's just fun. It is a fun show. And Courage the Cowardly Dog. I'm sorry.
We cannot skip over the past that Voltaire is in that show as well. Like the one
as far as
episode,
brains?
the song Brains.
Yes, he
that
did
whole
do that.
alien brain monster thing.
Yes. Aurelio Voltaire.
That episode was just a whole ass music video
Yes.
for that song.
Yeah. And he has his own YouTube channel. He is just an amazing artist. I sort of rave about him quite frequently.
Yeah.
Because he is an amazing human being. Mm-hmm. So, and he's got a channel that's, I think it's part of his channel. It's Gothic Homemaking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is part of his channel. Yeah.
So
I think he was trying to get that to be like an actual show.
Right.
Maybe.
That he was trying to get some of, like...
Some studio. I don't know. That was a while ago, though.
I think but they were afraid because he's goth. But
It would have been a good TV show.
People would have gone to that. There's still those of us out here.
Many.
Yeah.
Many.
Yeah. And it's one of those that...
For fuck's sake, Hot Topic is finally going back to being Hot Topic.
They could have taken the tips that he was using to create the furniture and different things and done whatever the hell they wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, his, recommendations as far as design and stuff, all that stuff was solid.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, if a lot of this stuff was actually, like, mass-produced or whatever, do you know how many people would actually buy it if it was sold all year round?
I would much rather have that. Of course, we do rather have that than go into generic beige Karen home. Now, that shit scares
Minimalism.
me. That shit scares me. Can we go on to the other one then?
Yeah.
Courage the Cowardly Dog. A lot of people know this one.
Return the slab.
As I was researching this, that was the one. That was the one that everybody had said scared the shit out of them.
That one didn't scare me. It was the fucking floating head in the basement that creeped my ass out.
There was a lot of them that were really.
And that scene that had the girl that was playing the violin that spun around and it was a scary face.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that whole show was
Courage was
up,
this little pink dog that he was afraid of everything, and of course all these scary things happened to the family, and yet he would always come through and save his owner Muriel, who he loved.
Yeah.
And she's a little pudgy, either Scottish lady or Irish, something like that. And then her husband Eustace, who was a total asshole.
He always got what was coming to him.
He was a grumpy old man, and they lived out in the desert or someplace that was just nothing. There was nothing. There was their little shack, and there was a windmill, and that was pretty much it. Yeah. And all this shit happened to them. Interesting.
There's a lot of theories about that show, though.
There's a lot of
theories.
A lot of interesting storylines within that. But that one's a great one. I do know that you can find episodes of that on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Another one that was weird but great was Chowder. And everything was food-based. Because, was it Mung Dal was the guy that he lived with?
Yeah.
And he was a chef, but he was bad at it. And Chowder was his apprentice, and Chowder is this little pink, purplish cat, rabbit, don't know what the hell he is.
Nobody knew what he was. Even in the show, they didn't know what he was.
The characters are great.
Yeah.
They really are. And
the mushroom, what was the mushroom fairy?
Oh my God, what was her name? I can't remember. I should have written these down.
Oh God, but she's a prominent character in
yes,
that show.
she is. She's Mung Dal's wife.
Yeah.
And
oh my God, what the fuck is her name?
We'll think of it here in a minute. And then
there's Schnitzel.
He was the rock.
Yeah, the rock monster, Rada.
That was the assistant to Mung. And then you had Chowder's pet Pooh, which was called Kimchi.
He wasn't a poo.
He was
a fart cloud.
Well, there's some people. But anyhow,
he was a fart
He was
cloud.
Sentient. He was sentient.
I said something about that to BB, and she was like, something doesn't. She was like, something doesn't smell, and I was like, you sure?
I don't know, but it's got some really good storylines.
You had a cat whisker.
Okay.
You have a cat whisker on your foot.
Okay. And the art style is really cool because that you've got just the normal animation, but you've also got it where you have patterns that are there as the characters move. It's a very interesting art style.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the green screen fabric.
Yeah.
Onto the characters, and I'm like, how would y'all do that? Because it always looks so...
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of disturbing.
I will say that show kind of assaults your eyeballs. It really does. But it not in a bad way.
No, right. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
And then
eclectic. Is that the right word?
Yeah, eclectic is good. And then the one that I loved, I don't know, the kid was so much into this one, which was Real Monsters.
It's a good show.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, and you have the monsters and they're going to school to learn how to scare the humans, and
it's a good show.
Crumb was the one that his superpower was stank.
And
that was how he frightened people. Plus, he had his eyeballs. He carried them around in his hands.
He was that monster from Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh God!
Naked, stinky, and holding its eyes in its hands.
And you had Ickis. He's another one they didn't know what the hell he was. He had these huge ears. He was often mistaken for some kind of weird bunny.
Yes.
So
what was about the striped one?
Oblina, I think was her name, and she looked like this upside down black and white candy cane.
But what was she supposed to be? No one knew what she was.
She's a monster. She's a monster.
Yeah, same for Ickis.
And you had the Grumble that was the teacher.
Yes.
All of it. It's very interesting, and even as far as their monetary system, they didn't use monies. They used toenails. Toenails. That was their form of currency.
It's horrible.
They were monsters. But it was just a cool, fun little show. It really was. It was based on monsters.
It was a good show in the 90s.
It was. Now, there were some scenes out of other ones that deserve honorable mentions. Ren and Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy was somehow this popular
now that one
train
is disturbing.
wreck.
That one is that one could be disturbing.
I don't see how in the hell they got by the censors on some of that stuff.
It was the 90s.
Nobody was paying attention or something.
It was the 90s. The censors were not as they are now. Like, seriously, stuff has gotten a lot tighter over the years.
And it was before they were, reduced some of the censorship. But that one got by with a lot of stuff, and sometimes their artwork was very detailed, as far as if it was gross, whatever.
These disturbing shots,
and
these shock frames.
Rocco's Modern Life was another one. They got by with a lot of stuff, and I'm like, how in the hell did somebody not catch that?
Most kids' shows of the 90s had stuff hidden within them that would not pass now.
And even as far as SpongeBob, sometimes they would have these really weird, like single frames
for the first
that were horribly disturbing.
And it's now they got disturbing shit, but for another reason.
What was that?
A whole different. The animation is vastly different than how it used to be.
Oh, that's sad.
But, like, it's still very, there's this YouTuber that makes very disturbing animations, and his style is very distinct. And I swear they take inspiration from him in the show.
It could be. Since the original creator died, so it could be
like that kind of disturbing. And I'm
like salad fingers disturbing.
No.
Okay, that's a YouTube thing. If you've never seen salad fingers, now that will mess you up. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube that it's like it gives a platform to these people.
That's a whole different rabbit hole.
Yeah.
whole entire different rabbit hole.
That is true. And the one thing that I forgot to mention about Invader Zim, because there is a cult following, a large cult following. And so they had tried to get Vasquez to make a movie or whatever, and he did a few years ago, and my God, you talk about a disappointment.
For you.
It was horribly disappointing. The storyline sucked. He has changed his artistic style. It looked like every other stock anime, whatever.
I disagree. Yeah, it did change, but it still had elements of him, but I was like, It's not as sharp and as jarring and as saturated as it used to be. But it still had that humor in it. Still had the humor in it.
It was one of those that I never wanted to watch it again. And as a huge Invader Zim fan, I was largely disappointed. So,
that movie also got, like, held back a lot, so...
He just gave up. He was just like,
No, it was different, thinking of different things for it.
Oh, they tried to do too much.
I think so.
God help. Now, there were some other shows that were very enjoyable, and they were spooky-based.
Mm-hmm.
But these were like live-action shows. Are You Afraid of the Dark was great. I think it was a Canadian...
I never got into that show. I never grew up with that show, so I didn't...
I think it was a Canadian show. But it was really well done. I still enjoy watching these things. Goosebumps was another one.
I think Goosebumps is a Canadian show as well.
I'm not sure, but I know that... Let's see, was it Stein? Was it
R.L. Stein.
And...
I got a bunch of his books.
Yeah.
He's the train... Oh God, what is his name? Stephen King?
Yeah.
This
training wheels.
This Stephen King training bra. That's what it was.
But he had some really good, and some of those were really good. Some of those were really spooky. These were sort of like tween shows, but you know, hell, I sit and watch that sometimes.
I still very much enjoy Goosebumps, you know.
There was one that was syndicated. It wasn't. There were quite a few of them, but The Hitchhiker was one that had short stories. I like those kind. I didn't think about that one.
There was an episode of the Are You Afraid of the Dark that had like this man that turned. It was like this kid who stole people's energy or whatever and made himself younger.
Oh, okay. So we're Dorian Gray type thing.
Yeah, but it was like through the mirrors. And are we still talking about Are You Afraid of the Dark?
No, I had gone on. We had done Goosebumps and all that stuff.
Well, on the Are You Afraid of the Dark, that was a weird episode. In the last scene, you see his photo or whatever, and he's this really old, creepy dude, and it's like, do you know this man? Nope, just looks like some sad old man.
Yeah. There's a lot of legends as far as people stealing other people's youth and energy and stuff like that, and I think we see that in government today. Yeah. Another one that I don't know whether I should have added this one or not because it's a little bit outside of the cartoon-ish type thing. There was a show that was called Monsters.
Yes.
They had some interesting ones.
You and I watched that show together for a while.
And another one that was on Nickelodeon that I had forgotten about, I was researching some of this evening. Mr. Meaty. That was a puppet thing. It was
never
messed
got
up.
into it. You never got into it, but I was so excited for it. I loved seeing it, and I was so upset that I never got to see the fucking Halloween episode. I waited for that Halloween episode, and when Halloween came, I missed it.
Well, I'm sure you'll be able to find it someplace.
Oh,
but
I can find it now. Well, hardly.
I think some of the things were kind of like gross. I don't know what point in life I'm just like...
The whole show was disturbing. They had a scene where they deep fried their hands and ate it.
Well, yeah, it's always... It was odd. It was really odd.
Tapeworm. The tapeworm episode.
Oh, God.
One of them got a tapeworm from raw burger meat. Yeah. because he decided to eat the raw burger meat.
That can happen.
And so this fucking zookeeper dude, whatever, had an Australian accent, came down there, lured the tapeworm out, ate the tapeworm himself.
He wanted to be thin?
He wanted the tapeworm.
They used to do that.
Because he was some exotic zookeeper or whatever. Tapeworm.
Oh, God. What's horrible is
traded from mouth to mouth tapeworm.
In the 20s and 30s and stuff like that, and maybe even before then, they used to sell those damn things in capsules because women have always felt the need to be thin. That's truth is stranger than fiction.
Yep.
So, interesting. Those were the ones that I could, remember easily. Check some of those out. Like I said, a lot of them you can probably find on YouTube, or at least you can find snippets of it.
I can still remember the theme of Mr. Meaty. All God's creatures, fresh from the grill. So come on down to get your meat. It's fresh meaty meat.
That's why.
Something like that. I'm sure I messed up the lyrics there,
not.
but the towards the end though. But seriously,
it was disturbing. It was one of those that I'm just like, kid would watch it, and I'm like, no man, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm
and I was
out.
like, this is my type of show. This is my type of show. But also, I was also at the time still watching Robot Chicken. Because I did watch Robot Chicken.
Well, that was on, what was that?
Adult Swim.
Yeah, on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, it was on, Adult Swim came after Cartoon Network, and so... Adult Swim. But that goes into Squidbillies.
Oh, God. But anyhow.
Squidbillies.
Yeah, he
Metalocalypse.
I don't know.
That Metalocalypse episode with the fucking kid in the wheelchair, that traumatized my ass because you saw him rotting in that wheelchair, and I'm like, and it was his ghost, and it was like, it mind fucked you.
Some of the Adult Swim things, I think that the only ones that I liked on that was Samurai Jack on Adult Swim. He was at
Cartoon Network.
It was just at night that they...
No, it wasn't even at night that they...
Yeah, it was.
Not all the time. No.
Well, anyhow, I really liked Samurai Jack.
But they showed Samurai Jack on Cartoon Network, and then when that show got discontinued, at some point they picked it back up, but then but it was a Adult Swim special at that point.
Okay.
That's when it went to Adult Swim.
Okay.
Was when they picked it back up.
Any final thoughts on the ones that we mentioned?
All God's creatures, fresh off the grill.
You can let us know in the comment section if we've missed any that are your favorites, or that, because we very well could have missed some through there. And if you've had experiences with the paranormal, the supernatural, encounters with UFOs, aliens, cryptids, send us an email, cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com. Yeah.
Yes. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, comment, and most of all, subscribe and click that notification button for daily notifications of our daily uploads. Thank you all, and have a good.
We need happy, weird shows again. Not some of this politically correct social agenda bullshit.
Well, we don't have cable, so we don't know what exactly is
sure
on
we
TV
do.
right now.
We would hear it. We would see it either on Odyssey or BitChute or YouTube. We would hear about it. We would.
Well, apparently we've not been hearing about anything.
That's because it's not out there. Yeah. Anyhow, know that you're loved, and we will see you on the next cut.
Bye.
Bye.